Hello, and welcome to Biblical Scrolls, where we take a deeper dive into the hard to interpret, the obscure, or even the misinterpreted passages of Scripture. We will also look at apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts and other historical manuscripts. We'll be using a variety of sources, so if you're committed to just one version of the Bible, this channel may not be for you. Now let's dig into today's passage. Today we're going to discuss how the apocryphal book of Bel and the Dragon fits into the book of Daniel. The name almost sounds like a Disney movie, although it would make a good movie. There's no princess to be rescued here. So to start with, Daniel was extremely gifted in knowledge and wisdom, as well as knowledge of the solar system and astrology. That is why he found favor under King Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, and Cyrus. He was an advisor, and these rulers loved him. So Daniel is an advisor under King Cyrus here in this story of Bel and the Dragon, not Darius like he is in the book of Daniel with the lion's den account. The latter part of Daniel. So this story would fit after chapter 6, verse 28 of Daniel, after he's pulled out of the den. Let's read that. This is the New American Standard Version. So 27:28 says, "He delivers and rescues and performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has also delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel enjoyed success in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian." So this is where Cyrus comes in. If you go to the next chapter, it starts under the reign of Belshazzar. So I believe that Bel and the Dragon would fit right after verse 28, chapter 6. So the king in the story, this is Cyrus, is convinced that the idol Bel is a living god because of the massive amount of food he consumes. So let's read verse 3 here. It says, "The Babylonians had an idol called Bel, for which every day they provided 12 bushels of fine flour, 40 sheep, and 50 gallons of wine." So Daniel tells him this Bel is made of clay and brass and doesn't eat or drink anything. In verse 7, Daniel laughed. "Do not be deceived, your majesty," he said. "This Bel of yours is just clay inside and bronze outside, and has never eaten or drunk anything." So the king felt he was being tricked. He asked the priest to prove that Bel was consuming the food and not something else. But Daniel knew that there was a special hidden access door, which the 70 priests and their families used to get inside this idol and consume the foods themselves. So in the end, Daniel destroys the temple of Bel, and the priests and their families were executed by the king. It's a good read. You can read that later yourself. But the next part of the story starts in verse 23 to 24. Some versions say dragon. This one says snake. It says, "There was a huge snake which the Babylonians worship. King said of Daniel, 'Bow down to him. You cannot say that this is not a living God.' Daniel answered, 'I shall bow before the Lord my God, for he is the living God.'" So the king, still looking for something to worship besides Yahweh, brings up this reptile to Daniel and asks him to worship him. Daniel asked permission first, but when granted, he said he can destroy the dragon without weapons. And verse 27 tells us how he did it. "Then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair and boiled them together and made them into cakes, which he put into the mouth of the snake. The snake then swallowed them and burst. Daniel said, 'See what things you people worship.'" After the idol Bel and the dragon were killed or destroyed, the people of Babylon were upset with him and the king, and came after him and demanded of him Daniel. The people cast him into the lion's den a second time. This time, though, it was for 6 days, not just overnight. So during this time, an angel visited the prophet Habakkuk, who was making food, and told him to give some to Daniel. This prophet had never been to the lion's den before, doesn't know where the area of Babylon is, but the angel teleported him to Daniel's location. Let's read about it in verse 33 through 39. "The prophet Habakkuk, who was in Judea, had made a stew. He broke bread into the bowl, and he was on his way to his field, carrying it to the reapers. When an angel of the Lord said to him, 'Habakkuk, carry the meal you have to Babylon for Daniel, who is in the lion's pit.' My lord, replied Habakkuk, I have never been to Babylon, and I do not know where the lion pit is. The angel took the prophet by the head, and carrying him by his hair, swept him to Babylon with a blast of his breath, and set him down above the pit. Habakkuk called out, Daniel, Daniel, take the meal that God has sent you. Daniel said, You do indeed remember me, God. You never abandon those who love you. He got up and ate, and at once God's angel brought Habakkuk home again. So in the end, it ends up much like it does in the book of Daniel. The king praises the true God, and the accusers are thrown into the den instead. The story is pretty insane, with the dragon, the teleporting prophet. I mean, I can see why this was possibly cut from the book of Daniel, but why couldn't the supernatural elements of this be true? God can literally do whatever he wants, with no limits. I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe even learned something. Please subscribe and give a thumbs up. The topics on this channel are difficult, and sometimes there's a difference of opinions, but that's okay. Be blessed, be encouraged, and I'll see you in the next video.